Hey everyone, welcome back to Private Club Radio. I'm your host, Denny Corby, and before we get into this episode, I gotta tell you a story. Short story long is I was performing at a CMAA event, and I was there early, and I met this really cool gentleman named Ian Hock with Winebow. I like wine. He was a cool dude, so we obviously hit it off, but we just started chatting and thought it'd be cool to do a fun episode together, and he came up with the idea, oh, why don't we go to one of his clients' clubs? We can chat with them, have some wine, and have a really cool conversation. So he reached out to his buddy, who is a trustee, and Tommy Donovan over at Fiddler's Elbow, which is a fantastic club. And we had a really fun conversation. We were in their speakeasy wine cellar. We were just having some meats and cheeses. And I don't want to say this is not an educational episode, but it's us just having a good time and just talking about the industry and just enjoying good company, good wine, some good meats, some good cheeses, and just good conversation. So we talk about the club world. Ian and Tommy actually met previously at a PGA event, and then they both ended up back in the club world. So really cool stuff. But so big thanks to Ian for hooking this up, and Winebow for hooking up with the amazing wine. And we're going to talk about it a little bit there. And especially thank you to Tommy for this is going to be one of the longer episodes. This is a long one. It was a really nice conversation, and I know you will enjoy it too. So let's welcome Ian Hock and Tommy Donovan to Private Club Radio.
Cheers, gentlemen.
Cheers.
Cheers.
Here.
Thank you, sir.
Salud. Not a bad way to spend a Thursday.
Has an oaky afterbirth.
Afterbirth, absolutely.
You say somewhere around 85% French? 2% American?
Wow, you know your facts, Tommy.
2% Hungarian?
He doesn't even sell the wine.
Is it yours?
I'm just very good at drinking it.
Oh. Now, this is like a special wine, right?
This is a special wine. So special company deserves definitely special wine. So this is a wine that we actually distribute. Not this particular bottle, but this winery. It's called Peju. So this is called Barrel EXP, Barrel Experiment. Sarah Fowler is the winemaker. And this is 100% Napa Valley Cab. She does an experiment year after year that you can only buy at the winery. And this is one of those bottles. 85 French oak, 13 American, and 2% Hungarian oak. So she does a little kind of experiment with the oak. And then she kind of displays it at the winery and to other winemakers in the Napa Valley. So it's a nice little treat for everyone.
Wow.
Remarkable. Nice little touch. Thank you.
Wow. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Thank you.
Actually got this on my honeymoon, believe it or not. So in the wine industry, when you go to Napa Valley, you have to buy, a little bit of wine when you're out there. So
Wait a second. On your honeymoon, you took your wife to Napa Valley?
Yeah, it was.
That's like me taking my wife to Las Vegas to go see all the magic shows.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay.
I think we have Gabby to thank for this more than you then.
Yeah, pretty much. It was a little one-sided. We eventually made our way to Sedona the following year, this past year. So that was kind of her side of things. But yeah, she enjoyed it. She enjoyed it, to say the least. So we had a great time.
Now, Tommy, how long have you been with, or what is your story? Because you guys both came from the private club world too.
So I first met Ian. Ian and I became really close over the last few years. First met at Baltusrol. He, I think, had about a year under his belt before I got there, and we ended up putting on the PGA Championship in 2016 together on the Clubhouse side and the food and beverage. So it was a pretty remarkable experience to put on a golf major at such an incredible club. So getting close to Ian and learning from other people within the industry and gaining industry friends has been awesome, and being able to do things like this and experience good wines and different applications within the industry has been quite the experience. So it's been been a great run for us.
Yeah, breaking your bearings. And I guess for me, I think it was my second year in, and getting into a PGA championship. It's one way of doing it, right?
Really thrown into the fire at that point.
Yeah. 50,000 people a day. And ours was a little uncanny because we had several rain delays where we expected 5,000 people in the clubhouse and an even flow throughout the day. Right. But when you have rain delays, 5,000 people come into the clubhouse all at once. So complete chaos
erupts. I think it was more than 5,000 because we actually had a tiki bar out, one of our extensions on our patio, and people were handing their Clubhouse passes over the bar to then get more guests in, more fans in. So I think that 5,000 number is probably a little low, but it was a packed Clubhouse for sure.
Yeah, definitely could have been more. I just couldn't see past 3 people in front of me at the time. We had bars that we couldn't service just because of the amount of people stacked in the hallways. We had buffets that we couldn't service just because obviously we couldn't get to them. So the members weren't the happiest. However, we did put on a pretty good show, I think.
I remember getting a tap on my shoulder in the hallway and turning around, and it was Adam Scott. He made a wrong turn out of the players' dining and got lost within the fan section. So he needed a quick tour.
Sir, you don't belong here. Get out.
You don't have the credentials.
Yeah.
You can go steal one from outside.
Yeah, attacking Adam Scott. I also had a interesting run-in with John Daly, and he is a personality to say the least. But
he choked on a steak on the
he did choke on a
dinner, right?
Yeah, he did choke on a T-bone during the Champions dinner, which was that's a whole nother story that we can dwell on. But some fun times. Yeah, we saw a ton of great professionals that week. I mean, Champions dinner for Jason Day, which we got to coordinate. So we got to meet Jason, his wife, which was great, which also another interesting story. We find out the day after that his wife, Ellie, ended up getting sick. And we thought it was food poisoning right off the bat. We were sweating, but it ended up being, I think she got an allergic reaction to the linen in her bed sheets. So yeah, right after the Champions dinner. So we were just like, if there was something that could have gone wrong, that would be the worst thing. But sigh of relief.
Thought the weekend was over before it started. A little.
Yeah, exactly.
Oh man,
a true professional. He was great to me, and he was a good winner. So that was a good Champions dinner.
Yeah, absolutely. He put up a fight that tournament as well.
He did.
Yeah, he came down the wire with Jimmy Walker, but Jimmy Walker also ultimately took the show.
What do you guys think of like the live golf stuff?
Interesting and polarizing topic for sure. I think there's still new information out there that we don't necessarily know yet, but certainly on the forefront and the headlines up until today, it's definitely a staggering thing to see. And it's from somebody who's been in golf or who's respected and kind of been a PGA Tour disciple for so many years. It's, I guess, a little uneasy, but if this is good if it's better for the game of golf in longevity terms, then it's good. I mean, it's, I think where the money comes from or whatever that is, the combination is a little scary, but all in all, it's good for the game of golf. I think it'll be good.
The game has to grow, right, in a certain direction. And if this is the direction that it takes, it's just interesting how the dynamic is going to develop even more. We just have a taste. The headlines initially just came out yesterday, so we all just have kind of a brief taste of what it's actually going to look like. But we'll see how it plays out. Rory gave an interesting interview yesterday that I caught a little bit of. Certainly some heated debate, especially with the commissioner, Jay Monahan. But we'll see how it turns into. I think if ultimately if it grows the game in the right direction, I think it's beneficial for all the golfers.
Right. I think there's some pretty substantial questions still to be asked. I mean, all these players that the tour kind of held onto and asked to stay part of the tradition and gave up hundreds of millions of dollars. I mean, where does that go now? So, I mean, a lot of these people who ended up making the right decisions, maybe for the wrong reasons, but they're now being held accountable for what they should have gotten, and the PGA Tour kind of has to answer to that and recuperate some of it.
Right. And I mean, Tommy's seen a little bit of kind of the live golf kind of from a secondhand view because he's right across. I mean, Bedminster, obviously, we're in right now, and Trump Bedminster being right next door, in the event coming up, I think in early August. Mm-hmm. You know what I mean? You see kind of, there's a lot of talk between the members, and I'm not sure how much membership overlap you have with them, if any, but, there's definitely a lot of talk in this area, immediate, just because of, Trump's club being right next door, I imagine.
Right. I think the concept was interesting. I think everybody kind of thought live was interesting from the start. They all maybe had their opinions on the back end of it, but it became more fun for golf. And I think that's what the direction the golf needs to head in order to stay healthy. I mean, golf's becoming younger. It's not really becoming a traditionalist sport anymore. It's a fun activity for a lot of friends to go out and have fun. If you make it competitive, great. If not, still fun that way as well. And I think live has really opened the doors for that. They've done it in a very unconventional way, but all in all, they're changing something that's been traditional for so long. So people have to adapt to the change.
Yeah, I couldn't agree more. I mean, it's just a fun atmosphere. I mean, you see it on television, you know, how fun it looks. And, you know, me and Tommy, when we go out to play, you know what I mean? We're blasting music in the golf cart anyway, so we can relate to a certain extent, right?
Double transfusions.
Yeah, exactly. So, you know, it just brings out a certain side of the game, which, you know, some people, you know, love and enjoy.
Well, I thought it was fun. The one video I saw was the opening shot with Brett Kirshner coming out and like taking off his shirt and doing everything, and then the crowd going crazy.
Bert Kreischer,
the
comedian. Yep.
I thought that was great. And then the one shot, it went viral. Obviously, he got a hole in one, and everyone's throwing their beers and everything.
Yeah, Chase Koepka.
That's awesome.
Yeah,
like that is like that must feel so cool. Like it's almost like, I don't know. I feel like to do that and they just go like yes, and they high five their caddy master. And
yeah. You see it at what is it? The Phoenix.
I was about to say the Waste Management.
Management, right?
They almost develop their entire tour based off the Live Management's specs of that. I mean, make it fun, make it loud and obnoxious, make it drinking, make it it's very casual, if you will.
Yeah, I mean, and it attracts, you know, the younger generations for sure. You know,
but I think it does bring that energy too. And for me, I don't care. Everybody has to be quiet. Every other sport, people can make noise and stuff. How come these golfers get the benefit of getting all this silence? Like, I want to see somebody hit like with like a crying kid or like a really pissed off fan. Like that's
There's not enough pressure in golf. You need to add pressure.
Yes, definitely.
Like, I saw it was a video of Tiger on his backswing. Somebody yelled something and he stopped mid swing, and it was this whole thing. Like Tom Brady can't like go back. You know, someone screams, like, "Can you stop?"
Yeah.
I'm trying to play football here. And it's snowing and it's cold. Come on.
Yeah. Well, football, they had to stop a game because too many snowballs were being thrown on the field. I remember that.
When?
Yeah, where was that last year?
It came from the stands, right?
Yeah.
Bengals?
Yeah, it might have been. Yeah. They had to stop a football game because too many snowballs were being thrown on the field. So, well, it's not screaming, right? But, yeah.
That is...
It's kind of funny.
Yeah.
But to your point about the Waste Management, you see there's always that video that comes up of Ricky Fowler teeing off and he's throwing his arms in the air trying to pump up the crowd. He wants the noise. He wants the fun. And that's what golf should really become right now. So it's cool to see this direction. It's certainly a change for the people who've been in the industry for so long, but it's exciting.
Yeah. But, you know, everyone wants to hold on to the traditions of, you know, the true traditions of the PGA Tour. And I think that's what's, you know, really kind of hitting home for a lot of the golfers that stayed true to the PGA Tour is, you know, the traditions involved, and the fact that they stayed true and they stayed with the tour, you know, instead of going into Live Tour. You know, I think that's where really the heated debate is coming into play. It's because those golfers that stayed true, you know, I feel like they're almost being penalized, for staying with the PGA Tour.
And some of these players didn't necessarily need the money. I mean, I think Tiger giving up $600 million contracts, obviously $600 million, he's fine on his own. But some of these smaller players who were offered essentially career earnings at a one-time signing, and they had to give that up to try and stay true to their belief. And now they're kind of paying the prices for not having that cash in the bank. Right. Yeah.
I'm also just playing dumb too, because I know just enough to be dangerous. Why even come to, like, why are they even merging? Like, why can't they just do their own thing? Like, what's the big deal?
And it's a brilliant question, because I think that's something that we don't quite know yet. I think there is more information out there that we're still trying to uncover, because why did the tour essentially bite all their words over the last 2 years and completely flip-flop onto it? And do we think the tour kind of understood that they were losing fans, losing spectators to the other tours and essentially dropping their ratings and whatnot? Or is it for a larger thing? There's talks that they thought they would have to become a more legitimate business and whatnot and actually drop their non-exempt status, and they would have to pay tax in America. And so there's a lot of information I think we don't necessarily know that's really going to be enlightening within this.
Yeah, I mean, to be honest, as a viewer, you know, there's a lot of golfers on the Live Tour that, you know, I miss watching on a regular basis, that I like seeing, not in a team atmosphere, but, you know, out there playing against, you know, I like seeing everyone play against the best, right?
Right.
You like seeing everyone together, you know, playing, against each other, and the best golfers in one arena. So I think it was just a matter of time where we would have hopefully gotten back to that stage, but maybe this is a step in that direction, is to really kind of get, you know, everyone back in one playing field again.
it almost added the competition. We saw a little bit of drama unfold even before the Live Tour really came to be. I mean, Brooks Koepka and Bryson and whatnot, and their off the course kind of drama and hatred towards each other. I mean, golf kind of went from a friendly, gentleman's traditional spectator sport to now becoming more casual, more fun, more fighting, more competitive, if you will. And I think this new Live Tour kind of became the drama between the PGA Tour and Live Golf, and seeing that fight almost had people pick sides and make your heart worth more in that sense. And with competition comes a bigger end goal and a greater winner, if you will.
I think Morning Brew I was listening to, and wasn't there a bit also where the players who left to Live, and then if they merge, are going to have to pay a penalty to come back in? I think there was something going on there. I'm like, what?
Could be. Yeah, I didn't see that, but maybe.
So there is some
it's like some weird little
right.
And that if you ended up breaking your contract, I might have this wrong, but if you broke your contract on Live Tour, you had to pay your contract back like in twofold or threefold. So essentially they were strong arms. So Dustin Johnson, $125 million contract, would have had to pay a lot more than that if he ended up coming back to the PGA Tour. So they're handcuffed essentially.
Right. That's a bite. It's a bite.
Whew.
The recent rumor I heard is of why this rumor or why the merger came right now is they're trying to wrap this up before the Ryder Cup. So the Ryder Cup's not a PGA Tour event. It's not a Live Tour event. It's not a DP World Tour event. It's just an event.
Yeah.
So how do you really judge who comes onto the teams, who gets picked and whatnot? So the current rumor is that they wanted to wrap that up before the Ryder Cup.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, that makes a lot of sense. Makes a lot of sense.
They got scared.
Yeah.
So you have a fantastic club here.
Appreciate it.
We are in the Speakeasy, which has one of my favorite things, secret doors, because I do magic. I want my whole basement to be like a magic trick. My wife's like, no, we are not doing that. But this is amazing. You have so much stuff going on. Your parking lot, couldn't even get a place to park. I just parked right out front. I don't know.
Very good.
Hope I don't get a ticket or anything. Like, I don't know what you guys are giving away here, but there's literally not a place to park coming in. This is a phenomenal club. How'd you get here?
Appreciate it.
You just don't. This just doesn't happen.
Right. Yeah, and it's kind of a long family story, if you will. But my grandfather was in the heavy construction business for so many years, and this is actually at the time that Route 78 was being put in, which is where Fiddlers is off of. So he ended up driving down one day and noticing this large farmland, and ended up walking up to the front door and knocking on the door to try and get more information and saying, "Hey, I might be interested in buying your property. Would you be interested in selling it?" And the farmer at the time said, "You're not allowed to leave my property without giving me an offer." So my grandfather essentially pulled an offer out of his back pocket that he was not prepared to go back to his business partner and tell him. And the farmer actually accepted on the spot. So then he was the owner of about 1,000 acres that he had no idea what to do with. And then from there, they kind of figured out a small corporate country club would be a good idea. And thus Fiddler's Elbow was born.
What a time to be alive. I'll give you 5 bennies and a franc. Just sign here. Like, deal. Like, here's 1,000 acres. Like,
seriously.
My grandfather never played golf. I mean, this was a pure, poor business decision. And luckily it worked out for him.
I'd say so.
And the club's been around since how long?
So started in 1965. So been essentially corporate only until about 2008. The financial crisis happened, and we slowly transitioned between 2008 and 2012 to become more family centric. And now we're about 80% family, 20% corporate.
Wow.
And that transition has kind of created our philosophy to be a club ran by a family for families. So we're brothers and sisters serving brothers and sisters. And that's really our philosophy here, that if you're a member, if you're a staff here, you're part of our family. And it's just what you do at home. You serve each other and you become friendly.
And what's your position here?
So officially I'm a trustee. My family all is very active within club. We all have pretty comprehensive and complementary roles here. So I'm trustee here with my brother Matt, my dad Ken, and my aunt Marion. And it's us four that really set the goals and the vision of the club, and let the staff really do what they're best at, and that's creating perfection at the club.
Now you've seen the club grow, Ian, right? Because you've been friends. So has there been a bigger, like, when was like a lot of this transition? Like, you said it was like 2012. So you've been friends since what time?
So, we met right around 2015, 2016, right around 2015, I think we met. Yeah.
So how's the club changed in your point of view then from 2015 till now? Because I know sometimes, being on the inside, you see, but it'd be interesting to see from you.
Sure. I mean, it starts, for me, obviously dealing on the, working in wine sales and distribution, I've noticed beverage program. I mean, it has always been at the pinnacle of New Jersey, and I mean the industry as a whole. Their beverage program here at Fiddler's Elbow, and I don't say that lightly. Obviously, we came from a club, Baltusrol. The beverage program there was incredible. Obviously, I was, me, Tommy, and myself were a major part of that and managing that program. But Fiddlers, they just always were ahead of the game. They're always forward thinking.
And I don't mean to interrupt, but
Sure.
when we first met and we were planning this, you told me the exact same thing.
Yeah.
And I'm like, oh, I've heard this so many times. Like, how many you hear people are like, oh, we do our Manhattans. We have the smoke machine now.
Well,
and you're like, oh, wow, finally.
Yeah. Speaking of Manhattan, I just have a great story on that alone here. I walked in, I was coming to see Tommy, and I believe it's for their steak night. And I was coming to see Tommy. And he invited me to the steak night, and we sat down at the bar, and I got something to show. I was like, okay, this is going to be interesting. I knew it was something that new, innovative, creative thing that they just came up with. And he brings over, pretty much a glass, and he brings over this metal tea, and I was like, okay, this is getting a little bit more interesting. And then he signals to the bartender to bring out, I guess this ice cube tray, but the ice cube was a single cube, but it was a little bit bigger than the size of a golf ball. It was the shape of a golf ball. Inside the cube was an entire Manhattan cup. So what he said is, signaled the bartender. The bartender put the ice cube in the glass, and the entire cocktail was in the cube. So he takes this metal tea, and they have this little hammer, and what they did was...
Why are we drinking wine?
Yeah,
Why is this not down here?
So they hammered... Yeah, they hammered this little... I mean, they used the metal tea as a little pick to hammer the ice cube, and it cracks in half, and it literally, the cocktail flows into the glass out of this cube. And I just sat there, and I was like, this is literally the coolest thing I've ever seen. But that is just like a small glimpse, and, this could have been done elsewhere. I don't know if this was lightning in a bottle, but small glimpse at, really cool things that you see here at the club. And it just blew my mind initially.
Well, and then even when I first showed up and I looked at the bar and I was like, oh, everyone's bar has all bourbon, all these bottles. And it makes you take a second look, and then you keep staring and you realize the spirit collection, like not just like it's very detailed in single batches and certain bottles, and it's not just 5 of the same bottle. Like, you have a phenomenal collection of just all the spirits. Like this, like when you said this is a great program, fantastic program.
Well, thank you. Appreciate it.
Yeah,
our bar team is, we believe, top in the industry, and we thank them every day for that. I mean, they're always turning over a new leaf, always looking for the next thing, and really not afraid to try new things. We honestly say it's a blank slate here. So whatever you want to draw on it, let's see what sticks, and you go from there. So no idea is bad until it's proven wrong.
Absolutely. And I mean, as far as innovation, just kind of goes outside the beverage program as well. And Tommy could speak to this more than I certainly can. But, you're obviously having the garden right outside the club, where they grow a ton of their own vegetables, and having that kind of sustainability. Tommy is, he has a team that makes pretty much canned cocktails that he uses for golf outings at the club.
Wait, you custom make your own?
Our own canned cocktails. So basically,
what
we find within value in some of our initiatives is when you combine different programs, you end up becoming more efficient, or they become a better strength of a program. So we have a pretty comprehensive sustainability program here at Fiddler's Elbow. We're very environmentally friendly and focused. To my knowledge, we actually are the only private country club with a commercial composting facility, if you will, on property. So we actually have our own commercial composter back by our receiving area, where we compost all of our to-go containers, all of our straws, basically everything we can. So combining different initiatives really kind of makes both a little bit stronger. So the canned cocktails came to be, we wanted to limit the deliveries we were getting, to limit our carbon footprint, and also creating the value standpoint of personalization. So we'll use it for outings as sponsorships. We'll sell sponsorships and put the corporate logo on the canned cocktail label. We're all everything is really made on property. So we'll create the label, we'll print the label, we'll apply the label, we will batch and fill the can. We have our can seamer and we completely close it. And then from there, we'll distribute that to the members and the guests. And it really brings a big value standpoint. We see members and guests all the time taking pictures with their cans. Half of them don't even open them because they want just to take them home and put them on the shelf.
Yeah.
We had a fundraiser a couple years ago. It's Mixed Sticks. It's one of our larger internal fundraisers for charity. And we put every single guest's name individually on the label and had them in their cart. So when they got to their cart, they had a transfusion with their name on it in their cart. 350 players, small headache, but the perception and the value of perception that they were experiencing was as high as it could have been.
So there's a lot of different facets that really have kind of set Fiddlers apart of a lot of clubs that I currently work with. And it's not to toss, any other clubs under the bus. I mean, I've noticed through personal experience, this club really kind of take it always to the next level. So, I mean, and also Tommy, has been, a friend, and we've worked together, literally, sweated together in the PGA Championship and at Baltusrol, but he's been extremely humble and a great friend to me, both on the business side and personally. And it's just, from top to bottom, like I said. But the wine program, I could speak to that, right? That's my forte. I could definitely speak to that.
Speaking of,
yes,
top us off, sir.
Yes. So we pour a little more Peugeot here.
Yeah, Ian, with the help, a lot of our bar program team here, Marco, our in-house sommelier. I mean, Ian has really helped shape our wine program to where it is right now. I mean, we really excel in our wine program, our wine dinners, and the value that we're able to give our members because of people like Ian from a friend and professional standpoint is extremely grateful.
It's grapeful.
It's grateful.
And we're done. Yeah, go the wine program.
Yes. Yeah. So, obviously,
I'm sorry. We are looking at. If you can describe what we're even looking at, I can't even describe. It's a glass wall enclosure.
Right.
I want to say humidor, but that's for cigars. This is what would you call that? A wine cooler?
No, it's temperature controlled. Yeah, wine display. Controlled wine display. I don't know. Tommy, how many bottles do you have in there?
A few hundred. I think it's about 400 bottles in total.
Okay.
So really just our showcased wines, some of our first growths, DRCs, and so to speak. We have a vault in the back where we store some of our deeper bins, if you will. So this is our showpiece. Whenever we have our wine dinners and fun events down here, our members get to see some of our top end bottles.
Yeah, and I'll put a photo of this when I post it. But this room is fantastic. What made you guys convert this room?
So before we converted this we called it our wine cellar, and it was essentially just a large storage closet for wine. It was not temperature controlled. It was floor to ceiling, just bins. We had maybe about 2,500 bottles down here, and it was working great. But it was an underutilized room that we occasionally had a wine dinner down here. But it's a beautiful room. It's underground. It kind of has the ambiance that you're looking for, and it wasn't really utilized. So during the pandemic, we made an initiative to really shape this and change it into a more utilized speakeasy, if you will.
Yeah.
So we added the speakeasy door with the little the password.
Yep.
The password hatch, if you will. We have the exit bookcase that opens up that you have no idea if there's a fire or not. But
if there was a fire in here, I don't know if anyone would know how to get out of this room.
Just lock the door and you have years worth of wine. You're fine.
Yeah, that's true. It's also temperature control.
So you obviously then, since this was a storage for alcohol, you built the room, or you can build the program around the wine or the wine around the room. And so did you specifically build this room for a specific wine program?
Maybe not a specific wine program, so to speak.
I was trying to sound smart.
No, I love it.
I was like really trying to put some words together.
Maybe the wine program in total, or the prestigious side of the wine program, if you will. So like I said, there's the first grows or some of the nicer bottles down here. So this unit that we're really looking at was non-existent in the old room. It was a little bit of a engineering nightmare trying to figure out how to do this. This is kind of a wet room, if you will. If you look above us, there's a lot of pipes and whatnot, but it almost added to the speakeasy vibe. So once we really put in everything, it kind of came to be a traditional wine room, speakeasy room where we could actually program off of it rather than what it was before, which was kind of a makeshift storage closet. So I think the wine program really shifted out of here because of what we're able to do now. thanks to help from Ian and everybody.
Absolutely. And being a distributor, I mean, I've worked at Winebow now for 2 years as a district manager. Our outreach as a company, I mean, we're in 18 different states that we distribute. We're in all 50 that we import to. So we're both a distributor and an importer. But my forte is really private clubs and kind of touching over about 50 clubs in the state. And working with Fiddlers is always a pleasure, just because they literally touch almost every region that you can really imagine. And in our portfolio, that is a dream to be able to have that flexibility and to be able to offer those wines to Tommy and really showcase these wines at the club. Not every club can do that, but Fiddlers really has a membership that embraces different wines, different regions, different varietals. And we certainly do plenty of events that also help promote these bottles, but they really have a great membership also that gives them that leeway to be able to really kind of do what they would like with the program and really elevate it to where they would like.
Yeah, I think you hit the nail on the head there. I mean, it's easy to sit back and say we have a great program and it's just happened because it happened, but it's obviously not true. The membership is spectacular. We again genuinely believe that our membership is the best that you could possibly have. The receptiveness to new ideas and new initiatives and education is at an all-time high. So Ian excels in what he does, and he always brings us new wines and new education within that. So our membership are always very responsive and looking forward to the next thing. They're not the traditional, we only drink California cabs type of club. So they're always looking for new wines, new flavor profiles, new palates, and Ian does a really good job bringing that to us. So always appreciate that.
Absolutely. And you always, again, like I said, not every club is the same. And that's really, what I try and do in different private clubs is to tackle what their membership needs are and kind of, come up with creative ways that we can kind of exploit what they like. And obviously take, their creative ability to the next level. But I often find myself coming to Fiddlers, and again, not to toot Tommy's horn and Fiddler's horn so many times here on this podcast, but I often come to more than not, I come to Fiddlers and learn more than the knowledge I provide.
It probably goes both.
Yeah.
There's a lot of mistakes and a lot of poor initiatives under the table you don't necessarily see before you see what the good that happens around the club. So
sure.
It's a lot of trial and error in this
lot
industry.
of experimenting, right. A lot of experimenting, sure.
That's exactly it, though. I mean, like I said, we are a blank slate. And honestly, we're lucky. We're not a board of directors type of club. So any decision that has to get made gets done pretty quickly. There's one of 4 people that have to write off on it. So any of these little initiatives are relatively easy to start. Whether it works or not is up to the membership and the staff. But in order to try something new, we're always excited to try the next big thing. And we're really not afraid for one of these initiatives to fail because there's always one right behind it.
Yeah.
This is different.
Yeah,
This is a cool experiment.
Again, she plays with, different barrel aging each year, barrel EXP, barrel experiment, that she kind of showcases just at the winery. And it's always, I believe it's always, Sarah, I apologize if it's not always 100% Napa Cab. I believe it's always 100% Napa Cab that she experiments with. But shout out to Sarah. She is a top winemaker in Napa Valley. Incredible at what she does, and her wines just stand out every time I drink them.
Great stuff, Sarah. We need the bottles to be a little bit bigger next time.
Yeah, can you get those like comic ones that are like the ones you see in restaurants?
3 liters, 5 liters. The one that
is there actually like alcohol? Like, are they actually filled, or are they just like prop and show?
Actually filled.
Some are showcased. There are some that are showcased.
Okay.
And purposefully, just because some people that don't want to buy a bottle that's filled just want to have like it displayed in their restaurant, you know what I mean? But you can always tell because obviously the cork, isn't unsealed.
Sure.
So, but
Ian will be able to touch on it more, but bigger bottles age longer. They're better for aging and whatnot. So
bingo. Yeah, I mean it's simple. I mean the larger the bottle, the more age extension it has on it.
So does that mean? Sorry, so I'm trying to figure out in my head. So like when you say that, meaning if you have the same amount of liquid per area in that bottle, if you have another bottle that's 10 times the size but has the same amount like a liquid, like it's filled like the same position,
right?
That's still better than
It's all
Or
about
are you talking about the extra space inside the bottle?
it boils down to the oxygen and how
Gotcha, okay.
and really how that affects. So obviously, smaller size bottle oxygen can affect a little quickly than
I went to
no,
special
larger.
school. So I didn't do good on the test where it's like, okay, if you have this and this, I'm like,
The fun thing about wine is the only way to learn more about wine is to drink more wine. So
Bingo.
we kind of went to special school as well.
Bingo. Can't have enough.
I call it special. They call it Montessori. The whole school is the short bus. Like that's really how it'll work.
What was this? How long ago was it?
Me? So I think we're all like around the same age, right?
I think so. How old are you?
34.
Okay, 32.
Yeah, 29.
Okay. Oh, you're still. No. I went from 3rd grade to 8th grade. 2nd grade, 8th.
Okay.
It was like super small. It was like 1st and 2nd grade together, 3rd and 4th,
Oh,
4th
wow.
and 5th. There was like something, I forget like what it was, but yeah, it was small. We like, they encouraged you to like take off your shoes. We called our teachers by their first names. We're like, yo, Lou, what's up?
Yeah.
Like
Go
it
to the
was
bathroom.
like we had recess at 8th grade. Like it was like it was
Right.
But like I look back now and I'm like, oh God, like I look at like who was in my class and I'm like, oh, I was also in that class too. Like,
Right.
okay.
Yeah.
You did
Yeah.
combine a whole school to create one sports team.
I was going to ask, prior to you starting the podcast, so you were just solely doing magic and comedy?
Mhm.
Okay. Got it.
Yep. So I think you remember, do you watch the TV show The Office?
Of course.
So I'm from Scranton and my family owns the paper supply company in Scranton.
No way.
So like the real like
I remember.
Dunder Mifflin for the most part. So for years I thought I was like run the family business and my dad has a couple other things. I've worked, in a bunch of different capacities, got up since I was like 16. I was like stripping and waxing floors, cleaning bathrooms, just like going up. And then they knew I loved like the entertainment stuff. And they were like, hey, listen, why don't you go try like the magic full time? We want you to be like, 30, 40, 50, 60, looking back going like, oh, like what if I would have tried it?
Sure.
So I somehow made it work and found the club industry and just my show and vibe and energy, I think just clicks well with the club world and the members and the memberships. I think sort of growing up in a slightly similar environment. Like, so we weren't members of clubs, but like,
Sure.
we were all in the same group. So I think just with
You know how to hit, you know what I mean?
just like with like the
Certain-
comic timing and ability and like the trick, like it's about the members in the show. It's like you're doing like a show in someone's living room. It's not really a show. Like it's like a little
Right.
bit of a different thing. And I just found, from an entrepreneurial business background, I'm like, oh, a lot of my clients are becoming clubs and I enjoy club shows and oh, there must be an association. And then I found the CMAA and like, here's all of our members. And I was like, there's my client list. And
Bingo.
My work.
and now I have private club radio. So
Good for you. That's awesome. Well, you obviously have the reputation, so this is a
all of us do. This is a pretty good, I did not expect this to be as good as it is. Not gonna lie. Not anything bad, but some people always like hype it up and you're like, all right.
Of course, man. I just, again, like Fiddlers Elbow, like as soon as you were like, oh, maybe we, film it on Club, I was like, Fiddlers, done. I was like, let me talk to Tommy. Let me see if he's open to doing a podcast first, because I guess not everyone is open to doing podcasts.
definitely a first experience, but
Yeah.
this is great to be on, so I
Yeah.
appreciate you having me.
I was like, maybe he doesn't want to do a podcast, but let me find out that.
No,
But,
it's fun.
yeah.
Well, it's just nice also. Like I love hearing about, like I'm all about the relationships and people. So just the fact that friends from different things and it came back together and like, I don't know, it's like, it's just a cool story. And then the fact that you actually have a cool club where you're doing amazing things and having a really fun and engaging, family program. I was just down at a Champions Run with Ben Lorenzen. They're killing it in the space of programming and entertainment. They have I think $1 million water park. They have a mascot. Like they do like a lot of cool things in the summer. They have cabanas people can rent out, and every Saturday or maybe it's every weekend. It's every time a certain song plays, that means they pick a random person a random kid from the pool area.
Sure.
They have 30 seconds to get like a half court basketball shot. if they do, all the kids get free juice and all the adults get free margaritas.
Wow.
But they have like t-shirt cannons and they do like a lot of fun stuff. So what kind of stuff do you guys do? Like, I didn't mean to set it up like that, but like, that's just like, I enjoy, you take that step forward. And I think when going back to the wine program, the reason why it's successful is, you even said it earlier, you take those risks and sometimes they fail, sometimes they don't. But I think as people realize they can see the journey, like, hey, we're all on this together. Guess what? Some stuff's going to flop, but for the most part, it's going to be good. So we don't mind trying that. It might not, whether it's a bottle of wine or an event, they might go, it was okay. Or, wouldn't get it again, but at least it's that there's no, like, I don't want to say animosity, but like sometimes it's that like, you're not doing well enough. It's like, it's this nice communal.
Certainly.
Yeah.
I think the interesting thing about the industry is it's probably somewhat similar to other industries, but obviously I'll speak on the one I know, but the health of the industry relies on the health of each club. So while it is cutthroat like all other businesses, you want other clubs to survive as well. You don't want to be the only surviving club. So we don't really believe it's us against the world or us against the other clubs. Yeah. We want everybody to succeed because we want the community to succeed. So while I guess by definition, Fiddler's Elbow is a country club, we're been in the process of rebranding and we're actually turning into a lifestyle. So we're really Fiddler's Elbow. And our members know that they're still part of Fiddler's Elbow, whether they're on property or off property. And we do a lot of function off property as well, because it's not our boundaries are not really just to our property line. So we actually have a program called TAP, Travel and Adventure Program, and we'll actually take groups of members to various different events or traveling actually. And we just came back from a trip to France and visited a bunch of different wineries and restaurants, Michelin stars to France. So we're trying to get into the little bit of the lifestyle game where our membership is part of our family, and families travel together, they do things together, and it's not really just bound by one location, if you will.
You're creating a community is really fantastic. Absolutely fantastic. It's amazing.
And our members outside of the club and without involving us, our members travel together. They're very friendly. It's not very cliquey. Ian knows as well. You go to various different country clubs and golf clubs around the country, and sometimes they're a little bit cliquey with the weekday warriors only playing on one day in their group, and you have different skins matches going on in another group. But Fiddlers, we're thankful and grateful that our membership is one. It's not really divided, and they're willing to travel and do things outside of the club or inside the club together, and it's because of the lifestyle nature.
Well, and that also, I think it self-filters out who's going to be a member and who's not.
Right.
You know what I mean? Like, so if someone just researches Fiddler's Elbow and from the stuff they see on social media or when they come here, they're going to get the vibe of whether they think they're going to be a fit or not. So you're just self-filtering out bad potential members. Not bad members, but not a good fit for this club.
And I'm sure those people who might not be a good fit here will have another club who's the perfect fit for them. And that's the beauty of the industry. It's not one size fits all, and you have to find your best place. But like you're saying, the Champions Run, they're trying to make clubs fun again. It used to be this traditional nature, and I think we're trying to mimic that as well. And it's cool to see the industry becoming family focused and fun, because it's not just, hey, play your round of golf, have your beer, and go home to your family. It's kind of hanging out. It's camaraderie within your members and your guests and everything. It's becoming a destination and a full on activity rather than just traditional golf and leave.
What I liked is when I was talking with Ben about it is his reference was, I guess there's like a lot of like younger tech people where he's at, and he's like, people want to come after work, after the soccer games. So when I was like, hey, like, what's the attire? That's why when I texted you, I was like, oh, is there like someone I didn't know? He was like, oh, like whatever. And I was like, oh, okay. So I'll wear like a polo and this. I turned the corner. He's in like orange shorts and a t-shirt. He's like, oh man, it's Champions Run. And I was like, oh. And then the more we talked, he's like, we have certain areas where, there are dress codes or certain nights and policies, but it's a family environment. And we want you to come here after your soccer game. We want to be a place that you want to come to, that you want to go to, not that you can't, like, because you can't go because of like a dress code, or to be like, hey, if you want to come celebrate your kids' win or whatever after a soccer, come on. You know what I mean? So it's that communal, going back all full circle.
Yeah. You don't want to restrict somebody's experience because of what they're wearing.
Right. Yeah. And kind of to the opposite effect, right? Baltusrol, where we worked, there was no jeans allowed. Right. You came, to dinner with a jacket after 6 o'clock. Right. So it was, but again, Baltusrol has such a tradition at the club where it's kind of followed that suit for so long, and members respect that. There's no cell phones in the club. Really, I mean, texting is minimally allowed, but no phone calls unless you're in a certain area of the club. But the members like it that way, right? They want it to be an escape from kind of their day to day. So you respect the tradition involved at clubs like that, but also again, all clubs are different, and everyone wants to find what clubs that suit them best. And Baltusrol, again, it was Baltusrol was probably one of the greatest experiences of my lifetime.
Absolutely.
Definitely, I imagine Tommy's. We actually have a mutual kind of person that drew us in to Baltusrol together. I have to give a shout out to the podcast. His name is Brian Baldwin. So Mr. Brian Baldwin, I definitely want to give a shout out to.
Who, if you're listening, I think you still owe us a few dollars for not wearing a jacket after 6.
Maybe.
We used to fine each other $5 if you didn't have a jacket on after 6. So
Yeah,
Brian,
exactly.
break out those Benjamins, I think.
Exactly. So, so it's funny enough. So Brian used to be the clubhouse manager here at Fiddler's Elbow, and then he shifted gears to Baltusrol, where I was at the current time. And then I believe Brian, is kind of who encouraged Tommy to come to Baltusrol, to work at Baltusrol. But Brian is one of those energies, right, that you feel like when we met, Denny. Like I just felt the energy. I was like, all right, this is he's a great guy, and he's got that positivity to him that just draws people into the room. Brian has that energy. He has that persona. And he was just a really passionate person about hospitality. And he was always at the club. He was, day shift, night shift. He was there on the floor. And to his maybe detriment, Brian got me involved in wine when I was at Baltusrol. And I fell in love with wine a little bit too much. Sorry, Brian. But Brian was really a driving force, and certainly someone who I consider a mentor. But that's ultimately how me and Tommy connected. I think it's a good part of the story is Brian. So props to Brian.
Cheers to Brian.
Yeah, it's a great industry. I mean, everybody who's in the industry knows it's very demanding. It is cutthroat. It's long hours. It's sometimes low pay, and you really only join this industry if you have that pure passion behind it. And I mean, I think the people that we've met in the industry at Baltusrol and throughout Fiddlers or whatever other club we've really been at. I mean, you meet some people who have uber amounts of passion for the industry, and you really need that in order to make it here.
Yeah, I mean, their energy is almost in the room before they are. You just feel that passion, and you feel that positivity, and it resonates with the whole staff. You know what I mean? And there's certain people that you meet in life that are special like that, and Brian definitely was one of those person. Is still one of those people for me. We keep in touch, but I'm dead to him on some days after, I left for the wine industry, and I'm not on other days. So, it's a kind of back and forth love-hate relationship with me and Brian, but yeah, shout out to Brian. Thanks, Brian.
Yeah, I think a round of golf is long overdue.
Yeah, definitely. I mean,
seeing Brian dress like he's a scratch golfer and then shooting a 102 is always one of my favorite things. So
he dressed the part. He dressed the part.
I am so tempted to not put that part in. Because you guys are going to tell him, oh, we mentioned you in the episode. Yeah. And then the episode airs, like, you didn't mention me at all. No, were you just saying about how people dress too good for how they golf?
Some people think the way they dress is going to be the way they shoot.
Oh, I probably shouldn't say this because I'm on private club radio, but I've tried to golf. I'm just not, I can't hit the ball. I can keep up in any sport. I cannot hit that ball. And then when I was starting to learn or want to learn a little bit more, I had like a back injury, and they're like, it's not good for, I was like, all right. So I haven't really pushed it. Fast forward a year or two ago, went to my friend's bachelor party, went to Florida to golf. I don't golf, but still had a great time. I drove the golf cart. We had drinks, and they all talked a big game. Like they talked like they golf a lot. The one dude works for, I forget who, and and I was like, okay, wow. And like they brought their, like some of them have them like, they brought them in the plane. I'm like, okay. Yeah. And you see them in the morning, they're ready to go. They're wearing their, Travis Matthews. They're looking good. And then they get up there. And after like the first, I think it was like hole 1, I'm like, what is going on here, guys? I was like, why are you dressed like that and have all that stuff and golf like that? Like you should not
Right.
Something's off
right.
here.
Yeah, I mean,
They
look
were
good,
not
feel
happy,
good,
but-
hopefully play well, you know? Hopefully play well.
Sometimes doesn't always work out.
Yeah. I mean, but you know, sometimes you want to look the part. You know,
Well, I think-
you want to feel the role of a good golfer, and maybe your game will get there one day. But
I think outing days were always our favorite, whether at Baltusrol or here at Fiddlers. Always love observing outings because it's these people who are part of a corporation. And no knock to them by any means, but they don't get out on the golf course too much. So their swings are a little bit rusty. And you see them tee off in the first tee, and sometimes or mostly not really make it to the next tee. And
Yep. It's like
get a little
bumpers in bowling. You know, they should probably use a couple bumpers. You know, in the first hole. But
that's why they sell mulligans at outings sometimes.
gentlemen's first tee shot there.
You should go back to the driving range. Maybe
Right.
just warm up for another half an hour.
Yeah,
We'll sit
or the
down
putting
and-
green.
yeah.
Just stick to the putting green. Maybe the putting green.
I'll
Driving range, you could still probably hurt some people. Putting green, maybe you'll do okay.
Keep the ball on the ground.
Yeah, hit a foot or two, but I think you're all right.
I'll have lunch down in our grill room with my brother, and on an outing day, occasionally we'll see a ball bouncing through the grill room. Somebody duck hooks one, bounces right through, and comes towards the grill room. And for people who have not seen our grill room, it's nowhere near the green that they're shooting at. So
That was one of the dangers of Baltusrol too. Is the 18th upper bordered our terrace? So I mean, listen,
Glass
you didn't really
windows.
have to hit that bad of a tee shot for that to duck hook literally. Right, I mean, we had shattered glass at least 2 or 3 times since I was there.
we would be setting up for dinner service, and a ball would come bouncing and break a water glass on the table or
Yeah.
hit somebody. Yeah.
It was part of the game. Part of the game.
It's a dangerous industry to be
Yeah.
in.
You had to sign a waiver before you worked at Baltusrol. No, I'm just kidding.
I drove my uncle's car down to him in Florida 10 years ago or so. You know, some early 20s. They're like, hey, you want to drive it? I'm like, yeah, sure. So I drove it down, and he's a big golfer. He's at a polo club in Boca. He's like, hey, tomorrow we'll golf a little bit. We'll go eat lunch. I'm like, I'm not a good golfer. He's like, oh, no, we'll golf for a little bit, and then we'll go eat lunch. So I was like, let's go to the driving range. We went to the driving range. He watched me for like 5 minutes. He's like, so you want to go grab lunch? And I was like, all right, thanks.
Appreciate that.
Honesty, direct.
Yeah.
Just-
Yeah.
As long as you're having fun on a golf course, doesn't really matter what you shoot, and that's the important thing. I mean, we're not professionals. We're not making money
Yeah.
for it. So as long as you're having fun, that's
Keep it loose.
That's all it is.
Keep it loose. Keep it loose. Yeah, there's
I've had a friend who lives in New York, and I invited him out to go golfing. He didn't have anything going on, so I picked him up in Jersey City, drove him out here, drive all the way up to the forest course, and start playing. We played 3 holes, and he turns to me and goes, "You want to go home now?" And ended up going back to the grill room, having a couple drinks, and ended up going all the way back home. So the cards were not in our favor for that day, but yeah. Aaron Cherba,
yeah,
we'll get back out there.
make it
Who
happen.
does that? Who does that? All right. We're going to crack that second
I was
bottle.
about to say, you want me to get another bottle of wine?
Oh, we can, yeah. Absolutely.
Sorry, grab one. You want?
Whatever you want, Tom.
I don't like
No. It's your option. Whatever you want to do. It's your bottle now. It's your bottle.
Is that like a special bottle?
This is,
It's,
Ian will tell more about this, but Tuarita Redigaffe. It's very prestigious. Incredible.
Yes. Tuarita. It's
I was going to say, I don't know enough. So if you guys want to crack something else, I have. It's totally okay, honestly.
crack
You
it.
can go crack
Danny,
something else.
Danny, this
you
is
won't learn about
this
this
is
wine unless you drink this
All
wine.
I
right.
was going to say this is
All
a
right.
special occasion.
Okay.
This is a very
Throwing
special
it out
occasion.
there.
We actually had a New Jersey Club Managers event with the son of Rita Tua. His name's Giovanni Frasciola. So shout out to Giovanni. Just recently was in the market doing a Club Managers event at Charlie's of Lincroft. So we displayed these wines there. This is part of our heritage division. So we have 2 divisions on our import side. So our heritage division covers the Tuarita wines, but based out of Tuscany. So this wine is considered their flagship wine. This is 100% Merlot. And also happens to be my favorite, but also happens to be the most, the priciest wine in the lineup. We won't discuss price. Won't discuss price.
It tastes great.
I'm not trying to sell you on anything
I
today.
love the
It's
color.
worth it.
Yeah.
I love the color.
Yeah. It's
No, I'm dead serious.
So it's, listen, it's 100% Merlot. And again, people are, I think, warming back up to Merlot. We'll see. Time will tell.
Now, when did Merlot start going down? Because I didn't know Merlot needed.
This movie's called Sideways. Paul Giamatti. Apparently, there was a feature in the film where they bashed Merlot. I haven't seen the movie, but that's kind of
That makes sense.
that's what happened. And Merlot sales actually, tanked. However, I don't know if people ever try Merlot and to try 100% expression of Merlot. I think, they're pleasantly surprised. Yeah. I mean, investing in spirits, investing in wine, wine sales this past year have, I think, been down about 4%. In the U.S., believe it or not, 4%. Premium wine sales have gone up. Spirit sales are through the roof, but wine sales are interesting. Also, investing for a couple of reasons. Global warming, right, has caused a little bit of a shortage in the past few vintages. Those who invest in Bordeaux, right, now or past vintages, you could potentially see a pretty good return if you invest in something now, because Bordeaux, because of climate change, is getting warmer. Certain regions are getting colder. So it's causing some issues out in the market. So investing in wine is honestly not too bad of a decision currently, because there are a lot of great vintages that you can put away that, listen, could be worth quite a bit more in the future because of the limitations that we're seeing now currently.
Now, would you say, or can you even say, I mean, in terms of an investment in wine, would you say that it's a little bit better for the investor to try and find some library wines and backdate and pay a little more just because they'll be worth a little bit more at a more recent date, or try and buy some current vintages and hold on to them a little bit longer?
It's interesting. Yeah, I mean, if it depends on, I believe it depends on the region. I think, investing in Napa Valley currently, I mean, Napa Valley, 2020 was a tough vintage, right? So 2021 certainly more promise. Looking at European wines, actually pretty consistent for the most part. Some down vintages, but been pretty consistent for the most part. But I think people are interested to see how global warming and climate change is going to have an effect on the wine industry, and it certainly has already. But people might be investing a little bit heavier because of potentially where vintages could go, and what yields we could see, or lack of yields we could see in the future. So certainly the investment discussion has kind of taken an increase just because kind of uncertainty that we've seen, at least in the last 5 years in the wine industry.
Yeah, and I think the investments, honestly, it's multifaceted, but it's on the consumer, but it's also on the producer as well. I mean, you see some of these top producers and top vineyards really not necessarily moving locations, but opening up new locations in different areas to try and test those soils and those climates to see if they can produce the same juice that they've been producing, just because they know that the longevity period on their current area is not necessarily it's not full. It won't stay, happy. So we, like I said, with our TAP program, we just had a trip that came back from France, but over the summer we had one that went to Italy. So we took 14 members to the Piedmont area, and ended up going to some of really good vineyards, really unbelievable restaurants. But one place we went was Gaia. So we ended up meeting and having a great conversation with Angelo Gaia, and he really spoke about his progressive thinking. And he's an older gentleman. He's, I think, in his 70s, but he is as mentally and young thinking and forward thinking as you could possibly be in the industry. And he's actually moving parts of his vineyards and whatnot and planting clones in different regions within Italy, northern, southern, trying to almost not necessarily manipulate the weather, but manipulate his wines based off where he can find similar weather to where his current vineyards are. So you see a lot of these producers that are really becoming experimental and trying to find the next thing within wine production and keep that integrity of what their quality is in a different area. It's really interesting to see how people are combating climate change.
Yeah, we were just we had a seminar with John Williams, owner of Frog's Leap, and he really emphasized towards the end of his seminar, really kind of the focus and technology advancements that they were making at Frog's Leap, but to combat climate change. So I think a lot of wineries are making steps forward to kind of protect against, what could be. But we've already seen signs, this past couple of years, of wildfires and things like that, and smoke taint. And, I was firsthand witness in 2017 to the wildfires out in Napa Valley. Had to be evacuated. It was apocalyptic like. And as we're speaking, we're surrounded by smog here at Fiddler's Elbow, and the rest
Damn
of the
Canucks.
and the rest of the state, because of the Canadian wildfires. I mean, it's intense. It's intense. So, people are having to make the adjustment.
It's such a lucrative industry it's honestly dependent on so much that's out of your control, I mean, like winemakers can be as good as they are, but with Mother Nature against you, you can't do much. It's interesting. I mean, even it's outside the U.S. as well. We saw a couple of years ago in France, and people were lighting midnight fires trying to keep the frost away. I mean, garbage can full fires, really just trying to warm up unnaturally, unconventionally their vineyards, trying to keep their vines healthy and surviving.
It's a test of a good winemaker. A good winemaker can make great wine in a bad vintage.
Correct. Yeah.
That's a true test. That's a true test. So yeah, well, I mean, the creativity, technology advancements in wine, are gonna be key moving forward. But it's an interesting dynamic that we have.
In the magic world, we say this, and really it's anything is limitations force creativity. So when you have some of these, weird times, it makes the people who are really in it go, all right, I have to make this work.
Yeah.
What am I going to do? It might not be the best, but at least have to try and do something of a good product. I think you can almost tell when somebody has that care and passion, even though it might not be the best, but you're like, oh, okay, you had some, something happened, but hey, at least you tried, at least, compared to a group or a place that might just go, oh, this is happening. We'll just keep doing it the same way and hope people enjoy it or buy it.
Yeah. Pandemic, point blank, right? Pandemic forced a lot of creativity in the industry, both on the private club and on the sales distribution end of things, right? Because, as far as restaurants, it hit them harder than ever. But as far as private clubs, they really became creative in how you operated. I'm sure Tommy could speak to this a little more in depth, but it just, when something forces you to a certain extent where you have to, really kind of adapt and change and come up with different ideas and force that creative hand, some interesting things come out of it. And I'm sure Fiddlers did some real, from what I've heard, did some really cool things during the pandemic.
Yeah, certainly. I think we were in the same boat as all other clubs, certainly, but like I was trying to touch on before, being a lifestyle is kind of that keeps your importance within the membership when they're not on property as well. And during the pandemic, all in all, now that we're looking back on the pandemic, I think, I hate to say it, but I think the pandemic was one of the better things for the golf industry and the private club industry. It really provided a safe haven for a lot of people to feel comfortable in where their destination is. But during the pandemic was certainly a little uneasy and a lot of reaction, a lot of adaptation. And trying to become like this lifestyle almost played an important role during it, trying to have the communication, the forefront thinking within the membership when they're not on property, because legally they weren't allowed to be on property during those couple months that we were shut down. So like a lot of other clubs, this wasn't really an individual thought by any means, but we were doing like Zoom meetings, Zoom wine tastings, trivia, everything like that. So we would, because we're not legally allowed to sell our wine off premise, we would essentially create a package and have our members go buy, kind of set up within different bottle shops or whatever else, and have them pick up these specific bottles. And we would send out meal packages.
This is how the new bottling thing came, because they would take it from a wine bottle, put it into a can. Right, now it's a different product. That's how they were able to get around and sell it.
Could have started that way.
We could put cocktails in too.
Yeah.
You're genius. Get it all.
Get it in there.
All in there. All in a pop top.
Yeah.
No, that's exactly, yeah.
Forces the hand, yeah.
Forces the creative, yeah. You wanted to get the experience that members typically enjoy consistently on premise, and you wanted to give that to them off premise. And that's a challenging thing when you don't have the staffing, you don't have the equipment, you don't have anything that you typically do, but you still want to give that same experience to your paying members. So it was an adaptation period by far, but we were even having magic shows over Zoom and everything. So people would enjoy wine, being able to see each other.
Yep.
It's
Yeah, we did a ton of Zoom, you know what I mean, wine dinners, you know, where we would send the wines home to memberships. And this is outside of Fiddler's Elbow as well, but, you know, members would have the wines and chef would prepare a meal that the members could pick up. And, you know, we would do wine dinners in that kind of facet. But it's an interesting time. But, yeah, creativity, like you said, it's where people kind of dig deep.
You had to.
Yeah.
You had to. It was wild.
Yeah, at the end of the day, the members are still paying their money and they still want their value. So it's really up to the club to provide that, regardless of what's happening in the world.
That bill's still going to keep coming.
Absolutely.
Right.
How many members do you guys have here?
It's tough to say.
About?
So we do something that's really, we kind of call internally a la carte membership. So we're a pretty large operation. We have golf, rackets, obviously food and beverage. We have a gym. We have a massive pool facility. So it's not just one membership and you have access to all. You kind of get to pick and choose.
That's cool.
And then a little deeper than that, we're a little family friendly. So if you're a member yourself, then your wife is a member, your kids are members, they all have access. So it's actually challenging and almost impossible to give an exact number. And I think industry typically don't necessarily share all exact golfing numbers, if you will. But
yeah.
I mean, in terms of people who have access to our food and beverage operation or our club in general, because of families and memberships and all that, is certainly in the thousands. We have a large membership.
I would hope thousands.
Yeah. I mean, it's...
Yeah.
So
200? Like, oh, wow.
Yeah.
You guys are killing it. No.
Very active members, 200 very active.
And USGA headquarters for New Jersey is on property, Tom?
the PGA of New Jersey headquarters is on property.
What?
So,
Yeah.
yeah, they're
Why
shout
do we
out to
not
them.
lead off with this?
Yeah, they're on our driving range. We have a pretty impressive performance facility up there. So the PGA headquarters of New Jersey is on our property as well up there. So we have a really good relationship with them. And Mike Adams, who's one of the best instructors in the entire world, resides here. So he's able to go hand in hand with the PGA of America and deal with his clients and his students.
That's cool.
Yeah, it's ever changing. The industry is ever changing. That's the fun part about it. It's always adapting. It's always progressive thinking and trying to figure out what's next in the industry and setting those trends. I remember first hearing Greg Patterson speak. I'm sure people listening to this will know who he is, but his one line is, "There are no original thoughts in the industry. We steal from everybody and we run to the bank laughing." And it's kind of true. Like we said earlier on, you want the health of the industry to be prominent. You don't want to be the only surviving club. You want everybody to be surviving.
Right.
And you want to learn from each other. And I hope that some of the things that we're speaking on here can help other clubs adapt and go forward, because we're all in this together.
Definitely.
No, I was me and my friend talk about this with like entertainment, because Magic's like a very smaller community. So there's people who are like, when magicians get like a big break on TV or like they win America's Got Talent or something, like, they won. I'm like, it's good for all of us. Cause like now people are like, oh, Magic's cool again. Mm-hmm. Oh, we can't afford him. Yeah. Obviously he just won. Let's see who we have local. Yeah. So it helps just bring it about. And then it's just like, going back, you're creating your own environment. You don't want every single person. You want the people who are going to enjoy it, be part of the community that you're building, which is really what it is from what you talk about. It's all these people just, being here, not just even on property, but doing these crazy trips.
Yeah, absolutely correct. I mean, the memberships by design, certainly every club wants to design their membership to be tailored towards their philosophy and their fundamentals. And I think one of the scary things about being a club owner is you don't want to be in the position where you're accepting everybody because you have a cash flow issue. You just need that initiation. You need that membership due. And you really want to be able to not necessarily pick and choose, but allow who you want into the club. And it's not really a restrictive kind of mindset, but it's a protective mindset. You want to protect your membership as a whole, not as an individual. So if you have a member who's applying who you think might be a little detrimental to the membership as a whole and won't really fit into that philosophy, then that's certainly a decision you have to make to not allow. And if you have to make that decision based on money, it's a tough decision because you have to survive first.
So now I'm just wondering, like, what's your process like since you're independently owned?
Makes it easy.
So you just what's your process?
We have applications that get emailed to us daily, dozens, and we're actually, for the first time in our history, we have a waiting list, which helps.
Congrats.
Appreciate it. Helps in our ability to filter out the applications. And we are not I don't think Ian can hopefully attest to this. We're not really a button-up type of restrictive type of club. We're very friendly, very focused. We allow a lot in, but you just have to be a good person. My my dad's line is he always says it, the would I have a beer with you test. If all of us kind of say like, oh, like you're a normal person, I would go out and have a drink with you, have a dinner with you. Yeah, you probably fit in our club. But if you can't have a drink with that person, you're probably not a Fiddlers type of person.
You know, it's such a good philosophy. And I have to share also my boss, Sean Woods, has the same philosophy when he's hiring. Are you a good person? Right. You know what I mean? Are you flat out a good person? I think it just speaks volumes. You know, we also hire athletes, right? Who play in sports and competitive. That's kind of the sales part of the job. But it just boils back to, okay, yeah, are you a good person? Right. Genuinely, like, do you care, you know, about your position, your job, and growth and what you're doing? And it's just such a key component into hiring. And I want to give Sean credit on that because
Thanks,
I mean, this was just a recent conversation we had too. But it just makes so much sense.
There was, I don't know if it was like one of like a business story, but there had to be at some point now. There was a hiring person, you know, a boss, whatever. His test was there's two different ones I heard of. One, it may have been Einstein, probably not. I'm thinking I'm making that up. But if they took a potential hire to eat, and if the first thing they did without tasting the food was put on salt or pepper, he would not hire. Or they would not hire them. Because if you're gonna just assume the food's gonna taste a certain way without tasting it and assume it needs salt and pepper, I was like, that was interesting. And the other was it would be a restaurant that, you know, the guy would know or go to often or just go early and tell the staff, hey, here's a very healthy tip. Whatever you do, tip them up front if it's a place you know. Be rude to my guests just to see how they would respond. And so there's like, oh, like mess up the order. Like just be off a little bit.
Right.
And I don't think he would do it at like a club, but like a more like, you know, normal restaurant. So it's obviously like it's not as like personal, but he would see how they would react under certain situations of like, oh, if they, you know, not like allergies, like mess stuff up, but like if they're like, you know, but just try and
not trying to
pretty.
He's on his insurance policy somehow.
He needs to pay him off. But no, I was like, oh, that's actually kind of fascinating just to see how people would respond in certain situations.
Cool little tests and quirks.
Or even just to like know something's coming just to see
how someone
the reaction. We keep saying, so much of this industry is reaction. You can't plan for 90% of what we do, and to see how people deal under pressure in stressful situations is certainly a big hiring practice.
Yes,
absolutely.
And another give Sean another shout out here too. Another one of his kind of tests during the interview process is we have a front desk assistant. Her name is Pat Milan, and any interview candidate that walks through the front door of the office, who meets Pat initially, right, should get her name or find out what her name is, introduce themselves, right? So by the time they sit down with Sean, they know obviously what Pat's name is. So Sean will be like, oh, so who's the lady out front? What's her name? And if they remember, obviously they're genuine, they really want to meet the person, really want to, make that connection. But if all of a sudden they forget, it's like, okay, well, how genuine are you coming in approaching this this interview? If you can't remember the person's name you just met, this is
correct. And it all comes down to wow moments at the end of the day. I mean, I guess short answer of our mission statement is we're trying to provide our members with wow moments they can't live without. And that's what Fiddlers is. I mean, we're trying to remember names. That's not necessarily a wow moment. That's kind of standard within the industry. But you're trying to provide experiences to members that they can't get anywhere else, and they will remember with them, whether they're on property or off property. Like I said before, like lifestyle is important because it's not a one-time destination. If your members remember an experience that I had on the club while they're off the club, that means that you did your job perfect. It's that emotion. You're trying to bring out those positive emotions within the members day over day, and however you can do that is the correct answer.
Do you guys read books or audiobooks or anything?
I only listen to private club radio.
Great answer.
That's a fail. No, you don't. Unreasonable Hospitality. I forget his last name, but he helped open up 11 Madison Park. So he worked with Danny, whatever the guy's name is.
Yeah, Danny Meyer. Yep.
But his I just finished his audiobook, and he talked about we're just talking about like opening up 11 Madison Park and all that stuff and just like unreasonable hospitality.
Thank you. Thanks, sir.
It's a pretty good listen or read. Speaking about like that sort of stuff.
Definitely give it a shot. I mean, Danny Myers obviously had the pedigree of our, I guess, public side of the industry within food and beverage. So it's really cool to learn from him and his experience.
I mean, nationally, Northeast alone, but nationally, Danny Myers.
So his book, I started listening to. I couldn't get through it. But Will's is pretty good. No, it was just like neat just hearing like the stories and like his process and then working with Danny. And I think they call it when you want to do something good for somebody without saying it, you're like, oh, like Ian, make it nice. And that's like the key word to like do that like little extra bit, but just like how make it nice, but then also just listening and being observant. So he was saying, I don't know if it was him or one of his waiters overheard, he enjoyed when people came in with their luggage because that either meant you were their first meal of the city or their last.
Right.
So you either way, it's a big impression that you're making. So he overheard these group of ladies, they were about to leave and they just forgot to get like a street pretzel or like a street hot dog. So of course he went out. I think he tells a story, went out to the guy on the corner he knew, like, Pat, I need a thing. He's like, what are you doing? He brought it into the kitchen and made the chef like put on a plate. And I guess chef had like an outrage, like, what are you doing bringing like a ballpark Frank, Hebrew National or nothing?
Yeah.
And but no, he brought it, but they like cut it up and then he brought it out to the table and was like, hey, I overheard you said you didn't have a New York, hot dog.
Yeah.
But they like classed it up still to like chopped it up, put like.
That's exactly it. It's the experience though, but that's a wow moment. And it's interesting to hear that story because in the private club industry, you're in the business of memberships. You're trying to make sure that your members who are essentially repeat customers are happy all the time or else they're not going to come back. In the public side of the thing, half the time you don't care not that you don't care, but your business is trying to give the right experience, get the customer in, get the customer out. But in Danny Myers' view and all these kind of top restaurants in the city, in a way, it's not a membership, like a dues paying membership, but you want the legitimacy of those people to come back every single time.
Right. It's almost
that's
close.
An experience.
It's almost close. You want those people. You want those return customers, right? It's not a member, but it's close to a member,
exactly.
Right? Because, in a sense, just because you want that person coming back and feeling, that effect that, every time I return here, I get the same service.
Right.
I get the same top notch, cuisine time after time. So,
and once that expectation's been set, then the challenge is just to meet that every time. But those top restaurants obviously do. That's why they got to where they are.
Right.
Yeah. Business and memberships is funny. You're always trying to bring value to the people every single day. So constantly changing, constantly bring something new. Every day you're not improving, every day that you're not creating is a day that you're falling behind. Right. So that's the challenge and the fun part. Yeah.
So I got to ask the wine side of me coming out. Yeah. How do we enjoy the wine?
This is
Red Agave. Wow.
I do like it more than the first.
Wow. Okay. Wow. All right.
So in your mind, is Merlot coming back?
We'll cut this part out.
Breaking news: Merlot on the rise.
Yeah.
I'm the type where whenever I travel to like other cities and stuff, for the most part, for gigs and shows, I usually just go to like a local brewery. Just because like the foods, like they're more like locally owned. I like supporting. Like I hate traveling places and going to like franchises. Like it's just like a weird thing I have.
Yeah.
So like at least you go to a brewery, the food's gonna be good, like the beers. And I always tell the bartender, servers, whoever I say, because like, oh, how many in a flight? They go 5. I go, okay, whatever. And they go, what do you like? I'm like, well, I tend to like this, but whatever. And they're like, all right, you sure? I said, I can tolerate like I'll drink any small thing.
Right.
Like, I won't get a whole glass or a bottle, but like I'll enjoy it and try. And if that's what they like, or whether they just pick random ones or not.
Yeah.
So for wine, like I've been to wine tasting. Some of these people are taking it so serious. I was on a cruise. My wife was with me. To me, everything is funny.
Mm-hmm.
Like everything is funny. So when you go to like a wine tasting, there's serious people. So we show up to the wine tasting and it was like wines of the world. And this woman who came in late with her partner, she overheard like wines of the world. She's like, I thought this was the Oregon wines because there was an Oregon wine tasting. And like, you can tell her partner was like, just sit down. Like we showed up late, just sit. It's going to be fine. And it was just like one of those, like in the way people describe, I, for the first time heard somebody go, cause the sommelier was, he was going around to people. Like you knew who he was going to. And this one was like, I smell mushrooms. And like me, people at my table are like, what are you sniffing?
Yeah.
So of course he comes over to me. So I'm like, he's like, what do you smell? And I went, my mom. And if you're ever looking just to make an impression, if someone asks how the wine smells, just say it smells like your mom. And guaranteed laugh.
Yeah, there's some like
listen, I mean,
so
everyone gets a different, aroma out of their wine, I guess. Some are very interesting, but
yeah, I mean, wine has this, I guess, stigma of being intimidating.
I think because it's unknown.
Right.
Like you get vodka, it's vodka. Like it's this.
Right.
You're always going to get Tito, always going to this. Sometimes a wine, even if it's it might be inconsistent. Like plus there's the labels and the price, and you only get 4 glasses per bottle.
Yeah.
Like that.
Yeah. Yeah. I mean, there's
expensive sips.
Exactly. There's a certain level of sophistication behind wine, and it provides I think an intimidating factor to especially like, millennials, Gen Zs who, are like, all right, give me the seltzer, what I mean? Give me the High Noon, give me the White Claw, things of that nature.
Bud Light.
Yeah, exactly. Yeah.
It's polarizing.
Canceled.
I was waiting for you to pause so I knew to go in and cut that out.
Yeah. Canceled. But no, so yeah, I just, again, wine is, I think to, when I talk to Tommy, I feel like we're almost kind of a little bit of a rare breed, for our generation when we talk about wine, because I would say probably 95% of my friends just don't understand wine in a remote sense that I do. You know what I mean? Where I could talk to Tommy, and we really understand obviously certain varietals, certain regions, but I just think I don't think it hopefully will develop over time into palates shifting from seltzer and from beer and from RTDs into wine. Hopefully that transition will happen. But as of right now, yeah, it just doesn't seem to really take effect. But who knows? Maybe we could change it.
I will say though, I did one wine tasting, and it's definitely changed for me. It makes sense when it was a food and wine pairing, and it was sip this, eat this, now sip that. And sometimes it was good, and sometimes it was bad, and they would do it on purpose to show, because sometimes for you everything tastes good, and sometimes for you everything tastes bad for it. But hey, here's the graph. This is supposed to taste like this. But it was just neat to go, oh, I sort of get it now. Like I'm never like a white rosé or just like a white like white wine person. Mm-hmm. But of course, like when you put it with the right, you're like, oh snap, this is
and
pretty
it gets
good.
people out of their comfort zone.
And but like when it's paired well, it's like, I think a lot of times when people try this stuff, they try wine. It's because they're at happy hour, and it, you know what I mean. I'm not saying it's bad wine, but like, oh, you just had appetizers of calamari, and now you know what I mean. So I think that's the hard part too. And I'm just saying, for me getting older now, like I'm very young at heart. Like I don't feel 34 at all. So I'm still like 20, but like this is not real. But no, I think just growing, and then like, oh, like you can just have fun with it. It's like, this is like interesting.
Yeah, right. Yeah, I mean, listen, and that's a good way to kind of get the buy-in early on, is kind of expose them to different things that maybe they wouldn't try initially, right? If they sit down and they order a glass of wine, they fault to the standard Napa Valley Cab, or let me get the your Pinot Grigio at $10 a glass. It's a good way to expose them to different varietals and get them outside of their comfort box. But yeah, I think our generation is very brand unloyal, right? So they're open to trying different things, but they're also, you see this huge shift into low calorie, low alcohol, organic,
skinny margarita.
Exactly. You see it going that, it's a huge part of it. So, it's going to be, it's going to be another interesting, take, moving forward.
Right. Yeah, and wine's relatively or very subjective in that sense. I mean, I think you and I have had this conversation in the past, Ian. But like the funniest thing is when somebody comes up to you and goes like, "Oh no, I don't drink white wine," or "Oh, I don't drink Chardonnay." It's like,
Sure.
Okay, you might think that because the few that you tried were against your palate, but let me give you something that you might enjoy. I mean, there's always a white wine, always a Chardonnay. I don't think it's really fair for people to block off an entire varietal or even color of wine, so to speak, just because of a couple of bad experiences. I mean, I think everybody it can find their positive nature in whichever varietal or type of wine.
But also, I mean, obviously, you want to keep it open. But, when it comes to club sense also, there's members that want to come in and they want to have that glass of wine made by that producer, right? And,
Every single time, no matter what they order.
Right.
Right.
But that's because they will have that consistency at the club, and that's the beauty of clubs too, right?
Yeah.
Is because they provide that consistency to the membership, and they know every time that member's coming in and sitting down, that glass should be at the table ahead of time.
Absolutely.
Right? So
And Ian's great at what he does. So Ian will come up to us with some bottles of wine for our wine glass program and whatnot that really stand out, really stick out to our members, and they're perfect for our members. And you almost become a victim of your own success at that point, where the members just drink out the supply, and then you'll go back to the distributor Ian and be like, "Hey, like, can I get another 20 cases?" And it's like, you already drank out all of them. There's no more left.
Fiddlers can run through a few vintages. You know what I mean? They have the membership, where they can burn through a few bottles.
So once you find distributors that know you and know your members' profile, like Ian knows our members like the back of his hand. I mean, he knows what our members like to drink, and he always brings us the wines that we need. So our members always like that.
Again, that's the most important thing too, though, right? Is because your membership is a certain way, right? And it isn't a direct reflection of what another membership is going to be right down the road, right? So, I mean, that's what I try and do, is trying to tackle different memberships much differently, and that's my approach, especially into sales. And that's what I learned, obviously, on the opposite end too, is because working in clubs, I've worked in several different clubs other than Baltusrol, Appowamis, Springdale. And I've seen, obviously, different trends in how members react to certain product, and some were negative, very negative, and some were very positive. So you just you want to make sure you make the right fit. So you have to be careful. It's a balancing act, but yeah, ultimately, I think again, that's the beauty of memberships, is because everything's different, and members can find the club that they feel is the best fit for them. But
I think that's important. A lot of people want to join a club because they want to be a part of that club.
Sure.
Sometimes they aren't a good fit for that club.
Right.
But but then going back, it's also vice versa from earlier, where it's, every club should be taking in every single member. Like, if you don't fit in with the vibe, like, there's nothing wrong with saying like, nah. Oh, but
this is fun.
A lot to cut up here. But no, this is great. No, listen, I think we all bring a lot of younger perspective to the industry, which is great, which you don't get to, listen to, too often right now. And the fact that you're kind of, I mean, in a sense, pioneering this.
Yeah. Thank you guys so much for joining us. Really appreciate it. Thank you for having me here. Really appreciate it. Thank you, Ian, Tommy.
Yeah, appreciate you both coming out. It's been wonderful to share this experience with you at Fiddlers, and
absolutely,
maybe someday we'll do it again.
Absolutely. Yeah. Denny, thank you so much. This is an absolute pleasure. Hopefully we can do it again.
Great wine and better company.
Yeah,
thanks,
definitely.
Danny.
Thank you, sir.
Stop sucking up. All right. Hope you all enjoyed that episode. I had so much fun talking and hanging out with Ian and Tommy. Hopefully we can do it again, gentlemen. That'd be fun. If you guys are looking for some really cool, unique wines and spirits, hit up Ian Hock at Winebow. Ian's all over the LinkedIn's too, so you can find him there. That's it for this episode. Catch y'all on the flippity flip.